أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين، حبيبي وحبيب الله العالمين القاسم محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الهاديين المهديين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
قال الله العلي العظيم في كتابه الكريم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ووصى بها إبراهيم بنيه ويعقوب قال يا بني إن الله اصطفى لكم الدين فلا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. أم كنتم شهداء إذ حضر يعقوب الموت إذ قال لبنيه ما تعبدون من بعدي قالوا نعبد إلهك وإله آبائك إبراهيم وإسماعيل وإسحاق إلها واحدا ونحن له مسلمون. صدق الله العلي العظيم.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
One of the sunnah or the custom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala among all humanity that the Quran confirms is that from the one that Allah created the humanity and created Adam alayhi salam, the system that Allah placed among us is that no leader, whether it's a prophet or imam, that never ever lived and the time of death comes unless Allah asks them to appoint somebody else after them. No prophet ever lived and died without mentioning that this is the next person after me. Now I'm going to walk through the history from the Quran to see how it works from Adam up to our prophet. The first one is Adam alayhi salam. Prophet Adam alayhi salam. He lived and he has two children. The beginning, one is known as Habil and Qabil. They are mentioned in the Quran. Habil, who was good, he passed away, was killed by his brother. After that, Allah blessed Adam with another son, which is known as Shia. The narration said, before Adam dies, Allah sent Jibreel, telling him, Ya Adam, don't die unless you appoint successor. And the successor is whom? Ya Rasulullah, Ya Jibreel. Jibreel said, the successor, according to Allah, is your son. He has to be this next person. Then he took the leadership. After Adam alayhi salam passed away, then he continued the leadership until his time came. He also passed it on to another child, and then the line continued. From there, up to where it got to this ayah as we speak, which is Ibrahim. Allah said Ibrahim also before his death, he said to his children, Ya baniya inna Allah astafa lakum ad-din. My children, Allah has chosen this religion for you. Fala tamutunna, be careful. Do not die unless you're true believers. The ayah continues also that Ibrahim is not the only one who did this. Also his son, Yaqub, also is one of them. Yaqub is a son, also who is one of the grandchildren of Prophet Ibrahim. That this Yaqub, before he died, and Yaqub has 11 children. Allah bless him with 11. MashaAllah, today, we don't want to have more kids. Somebody have 5 kids, MashaAllah. People will be pointing at him. He has 5 kids. 5 kids! Like it's a crime. To have 5 kids is something, a bigger sin you cannot imagine. Right? But when you come to the Prophet, MashaAllah. No, I'm not saying that you have to be like an iPod company. Like every year you have to provide, mashallah, a new iPad, 4 and 3. Every year you produce another child. No. But what we're saying is that if Allah bless you with something, you can afford to take care of them, why not? If you can, cut according to your means and your size. That's what Islam says. Now Yaqub alayhi salam, he has 11 children. One of them is Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam. That the narration says, before his death, he gathered all of them. And he said to them, Ya baniya, O my children, ma ta'buduna min ba'di. After I die, what are you going to worship? They all collectively said, Na'budu ilahak aba'ik. We will worship the Lord of your fathers. Who are those fathers? It's Ibrahim, wa Ismail, wa Ishaq. These are all your fathers. Ilahan wa ahadan. We will worship only one Allah. وَنَحْنُ لَهُ مُسْلِمُونَ. And we will be among those who will be submitted to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now this is the ayah. Allah talks about this lineage. And then it continues from Adam up to Ibrahim. From Ibrahim to Ismail, Ishaq, Yaqub. And the line continues up to Dawood alayhi salam. You know Dawood also at his time? Before he died, also he appointed his son, Ismail alayhi salam. His son, Sulaiman alayhi salam. Sulaiman alayhi salam, before he died, he also has to appoint somebody else, who is known as Asif ibn Barkhia. That is his successor. After him also the line continues. Musa alayhi salam, another prophet, he had a successor. Who was his successor? His brother Harun. But there was a little change here. That the successor usually, he lives after the death of the leader, the leader's child. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took Harun before his brother Musa alayhi salam. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala replaced him with another person who became successor of Musa alayhi salam. Then in history they say he was Yusha ibn Nun. He became the successor of Musa alayhi salam after that. Now it continued from him up to Prophet Isa alayhi salam. That Isa also didn't die until he appointed successor. Now until the Prophet Isa alayhi salam, it continued, it got to our Prophet, then everything changes. You know, you hear from Adam after Isa, every one of them have successor. When you got to the Prophet, our brother said, no, the Prophet died without appointing a successor. Allahu Akbar. Why is it? Every prophet from Adam, they all have successor. Until he got Prophet Muhammad, then suddenly he changed everything. Allahu Akbar. Good. Now here's the question. If he dies and didn't appoint successor, you know what that means? That means it's a sunnah not to have a successor. Because what he does is a sunnah. Why is it the first Khalifa has to appoint a successor then? Breaking the sunnah of the Prophet? Or the Prophet did appoint somebody. Either he appointed or he didn't. If he did, why are we saying he did not? And if he did not, why are we appointing somebody? Knowingly the Prophet died without appointing a successor. Now not only that, then also the second Khalifa, when he came, he also appointed 6 people. That they are, every one of these 6 are qualified to lead and become the leader of Ummah. Later on, they chose another man, the third Khalifa, Uthman ibn Affan. But even though we know, throughout the history, Tariq al-Tabari is right there, Quran is in front of us, we all know that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, from day one, when he started his mission, the Prophet appointed his successor. Because it doesn't make sense that every prophet from Adam up to Isa, they all concerned about their ummah, their companions, and they all made sure that before they left this world they have a successor. Except our prophet, he dies without appointing a successor. Now put this aside. Now come into this country and let this be your homework today. You go from every part of the world. Is there any country which has a president without a vice president? Now even us, human being, normal people, with nothing to do with the religion, they have came to this sense that every country cannot run properly unless there is a president and a vice president, right? That in case something happened to the president, the vice president can take charge of the country and run the country the way it should, right? That's us, people who have nothing to do with Islam. And we have come to this conclusion. Now, why is it that every human being, including you and I, we can understand this common sense, but our Prophet cannot understand this? That he dies without appointing a successor. Now that is why when you come, we said that of course the Prophet, from day one when he started his mission, in Hadith al-Dar, when the Prophet got all the companions, he mentioned, Ayyukum yuaziruni. And this mentioned Tariq al-Tabari, Tariq Ibn Kathir, Ibn Athir, and all the historian books, they all mentioned. Day one, the Prophet said, after he gathered all his companions, he asked this question, who among you will be my successor, my helper, my companion, my brother in this mission that I brought you? Nobody will raise his hand except that man. You know that man? Whenever the call of Allah comes, he never turns his phone off. You know, sometimes you get a certain call, you turn them off, right? You put them on silent because you don't want to take the call, right? Now Imam Ali alayhi salam, anytime a call of Allah comes or the Prophet, he is the first one to pick up that call. Never ever in his life a call came and he ignores it or he acted like he didn't listen. No, always the first person. He answered the call of the Prophet, Ya Rasulullah, I will be your brother, your successor, your helper in this mission that you brought, Ya Rasulullah. The Prophet says, sit down, Ya Amir al-Mu'min. 3 times, Ayyukum. That's the exact word of the Prophet as mentioned in the history. Ayyukum yuaziruni. وَيَكُونُ أَخِي وَخَلِيفَتِي فِيكُمْ. Who will be my brother, successor, and so on and so forth? Nobody will answer except Imam Ali 3 times. And then after that, the Prophet said, Ya Ali, أَنْتَ أَخِي وَخَلِيفَتِي وَوَصِيِّي فِيكُمْ. Day 1, the Prophet appointed the successor. Even the narration in Tariq al-Tabari, he mentioned that after the Prophet made this statement, then Abu Jahl stood up and you look at Abu Talib and he said, Ya Abu Talib, listen to Muhammad what he said. He is saying that you have to be a follower of your own son. Isn't that funny? And is that laughing? Abu Jahl, he was there. He heard the Prophet appointed the successor. That is the beginning of his mission. Now come to an end of this mission too. Hajjat al-Wada, right? In the Quran, all the tafasir, they all mention that the Prophet, when he was coming from Hajjat al-Wada, Allah stopped him in the middle of desert under the heat and thousands of people. Well, Allah told me, Ya ayyuha ar-rasul, balligh ma unzila ilayka min rabbik. فَإِن لَمْ تَفْعَلْ فَمَا بَلَّغْتَ رِسَالَتَهُ. If you fail to tell this message, Allahu Akbar, Ya Rasulullah, your 23 years of hard work is now all in drain, gone for good. What is that message? That one message is equal to 23 years of the Prophet's hardship. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told him, Ya Rasulullah, you have to mention this mission. The Prophet, the narration said, and it's mentioned in all the tafasir. The Prophet stopped all the companions. Those who were ahead, he told them to come back. Those who were behind, he said, we have to wait for them. They all gathered, and the Prophet said, it's not only member, make a member for me, platform. They made a platform. The Prophet stood on it, and he gave the longest khutbah in the middle of the sun, in the middle of desert. And he gave the longest khutbah. After that, he asked the entire crowd, he said, is there anything Allah asked me to tell you and I didn't? They all said, no, Ya Rasulullah. The narration said, while the Prophet was speaking, the entire crowd were crying. Because the Prophet mentioned about his death. So he has to mention about his successor. Then after that, the Prophet stood and he said to Ali, come closer. Imam Ali came, then he took the hand of Imam Ali and he raised it up. And he said, Ala man kuntu mawla, fahadha aliyun mawla. Now the narration stated, they said, when the Prophet lifted his hand, he said, Hatta bana bayada ibtayhima. They said, we can see the inside shirt of the Prophet. Because what it is, the Kaaba of those days, and even today, when they saw them, they leave a hole under the armpit. Right? That is one of the style, that so that when the Prophet raised his hand on that day, they could see the inside shirt of the Prophet. That's how high he raised the hand of Imam Ali alayhi salam. And then after that, the Prophet says, you all go and shake his hand. And this is his word. Sallimu alayhi bi imratil muslimin. Some narrations say, Sallimu alayhi bi imratil mu'minin. Go and say to him, Assalamu alayka ya amir al mu'minin. And they all came in line, one after the other, shaking the hand of Imam Ali. Right? That is the first part. The reason why I brought this, because we're talking about a will. And a will in Islam is two kinds. One is called al-wasiyya fi din and al-wasiyya fil mal. A will is either about religion or about money. Now the first one that I mentioned is called al-wasiyya fi din. It's about religion. That the Prophet and the Imams, they are all obligated to make sure that they appointed their successor. Now, that's number one. Now, number two, which is more important that we're going to talk about, is the importance of will in Islam. Most of the time we don't want to hear will, because we think as soon as we write a will, we're going to die the next day. But that's not the case. As a matter of fact, will has two Islamic ruling. Sometimes it's wajib and sometimes it's mustahab. What is it mustahab? It's mustahab if you don't owe Allah or other person a penny or nothing. Meaning, if I don't owe anybody anything, then writing the will is mustahab. But if I owe somebody a penny, then the writing a will is must. And not writing it is a sin. And this tells you, every one of us in the United States, writing a will is what? That's wajib. Because either you have a car loan, or student loan, or a mortgage. Don't we? We all do. For that matter, you have to write a will. And the Prophet says that a mu'min is the person who goes to bed and his will is under his pillow. And writing a will is so important, brothers and sisters, because it's a great opportunity Allah and Islam give to us. That Allah SWT said, before anything happens to you, since you and I, we don't know when we will be invited by Allah, you have to put everything you want after your death, so that you, whatever you want, it will be taken care of the way you want it. That if you don't, it's like a vacation at some companies, right? Use it or lose it. Your will is your right. Use it if you want to. You have to write it in the way you want it. And it has to be done according to the way you want it. But if you don't write it, then lose it. Then somebody have to make a decision about what you want. Whether you like it or not, too bad. You lost it. Because you failed to use that opportunity that Allah gave you. That is why it's very important. Every mu'min have to have a will. But how do we write a will? Where do we start? And what should we write? Number one, as soon as I owe somebody a penny, I have to write a will. And when I write the will, a will is written in 4 different categories. You have to write it in 4 categories. Category number 1, and it's called in fiqh, al-wajib, al-mali, wal-badani. Al-wajib, al-mali, wal-badani. Meaning, the first category, which is the most important, is if you owe Allah something, or you owe any person something. It comes in the, you have to state it in your will. I owe this brother this amount. I owe this sister this amount. I owe this company this amount. I have to write it in my will. It's must. That is between me and humans. Now, after that, I come between me and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Do I owe Allah something? Money? Yes. What? Like zakat. Like, for example, khums. Like hajj. At one point, hajj was wajib, I didn't go. It's still wajib. I have to write it in my will. That hajj was wajib on me at one point, but I didn't go. But if in case I die before next year comes, somebody have to make sure that hajj is performed on my behalf. And you know what is important here? This first part. As soon as I die or a person dies, if he owes a person a penny or a company or Allah, the first thing we have to do before anything else we have to take care of that part first. If something is left, then it goes to the family. Nothing is left, too bad. That's it. The first part, we have to pay people and Allah. Khums, I have to take it first. And it's called Aslu Tarika, meaning everything the person leaves behind, we have to take it and give it to those he owes or she owes. That is the first part. And the first one we said, Al-Wajib al-Mali wal-Badani. Al-Wajib, that has to do with money and body as well. Like Hajj. Hajj, it needs two things. One is money, expenses, and then there is a body also involved. Tawaf, Sa'i, Rami, all this is part of the body. You need a body to do all that. That is part number one. You have to stay. That is the most important part. You have to write it. Every person you owe, the name have to come in there in details. I finish with part one, then I go to part two, which is called Al-Wajib al-Mali. Al-Wajib al-Badani. The second one. The wajib that has to do with just the body. The first one, it consists of two, body and money. The second one, no, just the body, no money involved. Example, salat. Example, fasting. At one point, I failed to fast. At one point, I didn't pray. I missed certain prayers in my life. Allah said, I have to make sure that I write it in my will as well. That I owe Allah 10 years of salat. I owe Allah 6 months of salat. I'm still praying, but I haven't done. But I still have this amount of prayer that I have to be done. And here, you know what is amazing? This second one is different than the first one. The first one, after the person passes away, whether they like it or not, or whether the family like or not, Islam says we have to take whatever the person leaves behind to pay those debts to the people or to Allah. But the second one, Allah says you have a choice. You, the person, the deceased, you have the choice. What is the choice? Number one, I can write in my will 1/3 of everything that I have. Why 1/3? Because here Islam said, after a person dies, or before he dies, Islam said 1/3 of whatever you have is yours. Whatever you want to write, whatever you want to do with it, is your right. So that 1/3, Islam said, if you want and if you smart, write that 1/3 of my wealth, I want it to go towards my fasting, my prayers that I miss. Either my children have to do it on my behalf, or they should hire somebody to do it on my behalf. Right? Now if you write 1/3, you have no right, your children, to take that 1/3. They have to make sure that somebody is hired to do this. That is called Wajibul Badani. Right? That's number two. Number three is called Al-Wajib Al-Mali. Right? Al-Wajib, that has to do just with the money. Like we mentioned zakat. Also at one point, if I owe Allah anything, like a person or another, I have to make sure that it's paid from that. Another one also is called Al-Hiba Al-Amma. Allahu Akbar. Al-Hiba Al-Amma means what? Meaning that if I want to do a general gift, Hiba Al-Amma, for example, before I die, I know a person, a sister, a friend, who I know, and I would like to give something to them from whatever I have. Islam said, you are allowed to write down anything you want to go to that person, or to that sister, or to that brother. However, whatever you write, Islam said, make sure that it doesn't exceed 1/3. Why not more than 1/3? It's mine. Islam says, yes, it's yours. But don't forget to give everything and forget your family. Because Islam doesn't allow you and I to die and leave our children with empty-handed. Islam says, think about your family too. So whatever you want to give away, you can. But make sure that it doesn't exceed 1/3. Now out of this 1/3, I am allowed to write and say I want it to be used for anything that I want. It doesn't matter the person I want to give. Even if they are Muslim or Kafir, it doesn't matter. I can donate 1/3 of my money to a Kafir, a person I grew with, a person I know is a good friend, a good business friend that we grew up together, and I want to do khair to him. I want to give him something. I can do that from the 1/3 that I have. Islam said that is also yours. You are allowed to do that. And it's called al-hiba al-amma, a general gift you can give. Allahu Akbar. That is another one. But this in 1/3, Islam said, when you give, you are allowed to give. But don't forget something. It's very important. That make sure that out of the 1/3, you specify something for yourself. Which means, for some donations that the khair is going to come to you later. Meaning, sadaqah al-jariyah. You specify some amount. Either they built a house for Allah, like a masjid, or Imam Barga, or for example, anything that you know for sure, that later on people will benefit from it, and then the reward can go back to you after you're dead. That is called al-hiba al-amma. You have to make sure that is also is written there. Alright? Now that is the will. Then there is something important. They say, as you write this will, you have to make sure that there is somebody called al-musala, al-mushrif, somebody who is going to take care of this will. You have to mention them, specify them. That after I die, what do I want? Who do I want to take care of this? You have to specify them. And the person has to be adil, a just person. A person you know they will carry on everything that you ask for. That is that. And you know what is one important message about the will? A will is not effective unless the person or the author of the will is dead. Meaning, if I write a will today, that I want this to happen, can I change it tomorrow? Yes. Can I change it next week? Yes. Yes, you can. You can write in your will, I want to give this amount. Tomorrow he makes you angry. You don't want to give him anymore. Yes, you can go and check your will. I change. I don't want to give you anything. You can. You want to give somebody say, no, I don't want to give him anything. But then they do something for you that you appreciate. Now you change your mind. You want to put their name? Yes, you can. Until the person passes away, then the effect of the will begins from that point. Other than that, as long as I'm alive, as long as we are alive, we can keep changing every single time. And especially the recommendation is to change it after every 6 months. I write my will every 6 months. They say go ahead and renew it again and again. And here comes to the importance of will, brothers and sisters. You know, because when we die, which we know that we're going to die someday, sooner or later, we know we're going to go. Right? However, some things we want to happen after our death. You have the right to write it down. For example, who do I want to do the Salat al-Janazah on me? Islam says you get to pick who you want. Who do I want to come to my funeral? You get to choose that. Who I don't want to come to my funeral? Somebody, I don't want him to come to my funeral. It's your right. Islam says you can put in your will, I don't want this person to show up in my funeral. Done deal. It has to be done that way. Zahra alayhi salam, she did that. In her will, she told Imam Ali alayhi salam, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, after I pass away, I don't want this person, that person to show up. Done deal. And that's what happened. Zahra said, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, after I die, I don't want to be buried during the daytime. I want to be buried at night. And that's what happened. Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, after I pass away, I want you to recite this surah, that surah for me. That deal. That's it. It should be done. That is one of the importance of will. Because you get to choose everything you want to be done at the time of your death. Who do you want to watch your body? You got to choose that in your will. You can write it. I want this person, that person to do that. But if I don't write this, Islam says that's fine. Then what happened? The wali of the deceased, either the father dies, the older son gets to make the decision. He has to choose who should wash the father's body, who should lead the prayer, who should do everything. He got to choose that. Sometimes the person that I choose or somebody chooses might not be the same person the deceased one. But if he doesn't choose, he has to deal with it. But Islam gives you that chance. That you have to. Not only that, if in the place you want to be buried, where do I want to be buried? Islam says you get to write that. And if you write it down, those people or the person in charge must make sure that that happens exactly according to your will. Because will must be followed as long as the person didn't make anything that is haram. If the person writes in the will that I want everything to be done in this way, as long as they are not haram, it must be followed and it must be done exactly that way. Now, one of the simple questions a lot of people ask. I have children, 2 children, or 3 or 4. One of them is so mean, doesn't listen, doesn't respect me, doesn't do things I want. Can I write in my will that he or she doesn't get anything? The answer is no. You can't write, unfortunately. A father, a mother, I have a son, I have a daughter. They disrespect, they don't listen, they don't do anything to me, or they don't do anything for me. Now can I write in my will that I don't want any of my inheritance go to them? No, you cannot. You know why? Because the only time a child can be prevented from inheritance, when 2 things happen. Only 2 things can stop somebody from inheriting their father or their mother. Number 1, if they change their religion. Meaning, if the father is a Muslim, the mother is a Muslim, the child was born Muslim, but then later on he said, I changed my religion, I'm no longer Muslim, I'm now Christian. That automatically disqualified them from inheriting the father or the mother. But, if that child dies, the father and the mother can inherit. Even though he's now on different religion, yes, but he or she cannot inherit the parents, but the parents can inherit them after they die. That is number 1. The only thing, one of the 2 things that prevents somebody from inheritance is if the child changes the religion. That's number 1. Number 2, if the child is the cause of the death of the father or the mother. Meaning, if the child kills the father, then automatically that killing prevent him or her from inheriting the father. Other than these 2 things, in Islam, even my son can be mean as he can be. Yes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to ask him Yawm al-Qiyamah that. If he doesn't listen, he doesn't respect, he does bad things, now that is between him and Allah, but that cannot prevent him or her from inheritance. So in a will, you cannot write in your will that I don't want my son to inherit because he doesn't listen to me. I don't want anything to go to my son because he doesn't listen. No, you cannot do that. Even if you write that down in your will, it cannot be implemented. Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala already divided everything, everybody's share in the Quran. In Surah An-Nisa, when you get a chance, look at it. Allah clarified how much the father gets, how much the mother gets, how much the wife, how much the children. Everything is calculated by Allah and it is divided by Allah. I cannot change it, you cannot change it. It has to be stated to stay according to what Allah wants. Now, one question people ask. Since I don't want to give to my son or my child who doesn't listen, can I donate everything I have before I die? Yes, you can. So that way, my child that I don't want him to inherit, so that way if I donated everything after my death, he doesn't get anything. And that is my wish. Can I do that? Yes, you can. But Islam discourages you from doing that. Why? Because as long as you are alive, everything you own is yours, and you have the right to do whatever you want to do with it. However, Islam said, you as a father or a mother, regardless of what happened, Islam said, don't forget to leave your children with something, because leaving them with nothing, if you have it, is not good according to Islam. And it happened at the time of the Prophet, that one day a man passed away. 3 days before he died, he donated everything to charity. After he died, they invited the Prophet to come and do Salat al-Janazah. The Prophet did Salat al-Janazah. After Salat, the Prophet asked, does he have any children? They say, yes, Ya Rasulullah. He has kids. The Prophet asked, did he leave something behind for the children? They said, no, Ya Rasulullah. What happened? They said, Ya Rasulullah, 3 days before his death, he gave everything to charity. The Prophet said, I wish you have told me this, I wouldn't have prayed on his body. I wouldn't have done Salat al-Janazah. Meaning, doesn't mean that he shouldn't be prayed. No, somebody should have done it. However, the Prophet said he doesn't deserve the privilege of me doing Salat al-Janazah on him because he failed to listen to the advice of Allah and the Prophet by taking care of his family and leaving something for them. Yes, if you don't have it, that's different. But if I have it, I have to make sure that I leave something for them because Islam doesn't want me to die and leave my children with empty-handed. That they go and beg from others for them to survive or live. That is why Islam says it's very important to make sure that whatever I write in the will, I have to make sure that my children are left with something. Otherwise, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not be happy by them. Now another thing. When I write the will, can I write that I want something haram to be done? Yes, you can. But it cannot be implemented. You write in the will that I want something haram to be done. Islam says you can write it. However, Islam discourages you to write it to begin with. But if you choose to write it down, Islam says it's not wajib, it's not required. For those who are going to implement the will, to write or to undertake that responsibility and apply whatever you ask, as long as it's haram. They are only obligated to act upon things that is wajib and halal. And that is why we have to be careful too when we write a will. We have to make sure that the will is within the frame of things that pleases Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That whatever I write, it has to be accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If I write something that doesn't please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I can write it down. But the listener, those who are going to implement it, they are not required to obey me in that particular thing. But the other things, they are allowed to do that. Now, more than that, brothers and sisters, about the will. Because will is so amazing, brothers and sisters. Now, I want to write the will. I write the will after I finish the will. Can I take it? Like some people, they ask here. They say, can I get a lawyer to sign it? Can I get it endorsed? Yes, you can. You can get it endorsed. You can get it also signed by a lawyer to make sure that it becomes officially, that it can be implemented after your death. That is your right. You can do that. There is no problem with that. That is also one of the rights that Allah has given you as a Muslim, and you are allowed to do that if you choose to. That is a summary about a writing will in Islam. Now, the last thing that I want to mention is that why will is important. See, in Islam, you and I, we are important in Islam as we are alive. Islam says you are important also after your death. The same way. For that matter, the way that Islam said when you are alive, things is taken care of in the way you want. Islam said, I'm giving you another opportunity where after you die, after I die, Islam said, then you have another right. Things should be running according to your wish. To that way, your wish is honored even after death. That is one of the important message of writing the will. That Islam wants to tell you that you are as important as you are alive, similarly as after you die as well. But this right Islam has given you is the right that you have to use it if you want to, and if you don't want to, it will be taken away from you. But when you write the will, it has to be within the frame that we mentioned. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us to write our wills and not to forget this important responsibility. And Ya Allah, we ask you, help us to implement things that will please you, Ya Rabbal Alamin. وصلى الله على محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجه. Now we go to question and answers. Yes,
I can start.
Yes.
So from the first point that you raised about what you owe, so in terms of money, we have credit cards which we keep paying, but when we have a balance every month we pay. So do we have to write, at least not knowing what the balance will be when we die,
Yeah.
but we have to write that this is a credit card that I use, and if there is a balance, whatever that is should be paid.
Yeah, the question of the brother is that since here we use credit cards. Now let's say I use credit card and I owe some money on that credit card and I pay on monthly basis. So whenever I write my will, do I have to write that down too? The answer is yes. But here what you can do is that you write that part with the pencil. Any month that I pay and it comes down, then I do what? Then I erase the amount and write the exact amount that I owe. So you can do that on monthly basis. That every month I pay, it comes down. Then I write the amount there. And you keep writing until you paid it off. Or if something happened that I die before it's paid off, the amount that I owe is written there so that my family knows how much I owe and they know how much to pay for that debt. So yes, you have to write that down as well.
What
Yes.
about the donation of your body organs after the death? Can we do it?
Yes, the question is donation of the body, organs. Like some people, they write, after I die, I want this part of my body to go to a person who needs, for example. Can I do that in Islam? The answer is yes, you can. You can, in Islam, donate some part of your body to a person you want to. However, there's another question here. Some people, if I don't specify somebody, right? I said, like here in Virginia, you can write on your license organ donor, right? Now, what happened is, if I die, and then I didn't specify where this body's organ should go, it happened another 8 years somewhere, he needs some part of the body, and they took that part and gave it to him. Now, my body, who was a Muslim, born Muslim, practicing, now is part of another 8 years, who doesn't even believe in Allah to begin with. Now he goes to bar and drinks and so on and so forth. So am I going to be punished by Allah because he's using part of my body? The answer is no. When you donate, you did not donate for him to use for haram. You donated because you wanted him to use it for good purpose. Now, if he chose to use for something haram, then he is responsible for using it for that haram. Similarly, when you go to Walmart and you buy a knife, right? I buy a knife at Walmart. Now, I take the knife and go and stab somebody. Are they going to arrest Walmart? Because you are the one selling the knife, so we're going to take you to the court. No. Walmart is selling the knife. He didn't say use the knife for this wrong thing. You can use the same knife for good things. Now, if I choose to use it in the wrong way, I am the responsible. But the donor has nothing to be asked by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you're fine if you donate it to a specific person, and it's okay also if anybody gets it, that is also fine. Yes.
Yes, go ahead. Okay, what about life support? Because when we were writing our will, the lawyer said that he gave us a form to fill out, and I signed and I wrote that I should not be put on life support, and I signed both,
Yes.
both of us.
Yes.
So is it Islamic to do that? Because I was wondering, should it be done or not?
Life support, like this question comes a lot. A lot of people ask, because sometimes some people, when they are in coma, there is a big decision. Should they take it off or should they keep it? In Islam, life is not my choice or anybody's choice. It's a gift of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In other words, it's an amana of Allah to you and I. Allah gave us this life. He said, keep it with you until the time I want my amana back. Now, as long as I have the amana, no matter what happened, I'm not allowed in any circumstances to end it according to the way I want it. No, it has to be ended the way he wants it. For that matter, if I'm sick and I need a life support, that's what it should be. If I don't need it and the doctor says that I don't need it, that's what it should be. But I cannot say that, for example, take the plug on me, or don't put this on me. Even if I say it, it's the responsibility of my family not to do that. They have to keep it until the last moment. Now the question comes in. Sometimes when we leave it, the person can live another 30, 40 years. Who's going to pay the bill? He is not in the situation where you can pay. No, I can pay. Yes, you can. Let him file a bankruptcy and we're all good. But you still are not allowed to do that. The only time you can do that is if you get a permission from a marja. You can send it to marja and tell him the exact situation. If he said that you can, then yes. If he doesn't say so, then you have to keep it. But I personally cannot say that don't put or don't put it. It has to be the decision making. If I need it, I should be given that chance. If I don't need it, that is different. But no one should not make that decision.
Just a continuation to that question.
Yes.
I've seen in the US, when a person is dying, usually 911 is called, and the 911 people, they immediately try to put life support.
Yes.
And this happened with my father, and I was many, many years ago.
Right.
So the 911 people, they immediately ask, we can put life support or we don't put life support. What do you do at that situation?
Yes, sir. Immediately say, yes, sir, put the life support. Yes. Because life is a precious gift of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It should be maintained under any circumstances until it gets to the point, now Allah is taking it. I don't have any power over it. But if I can save the life in even 1 second, and when I say life, I don't mean life of human being, even an animal. You know, in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, مَنْ أَحْيَا نَفْسًا فَكَأَنَّمَا أَحْيَا النَّاسَ جَمِيعًا. Saving one life, one human life. Allah said it's like saving the life of the entire humanity. Taking one life of human being is like taking the life of the entire humanity. You know, there's one hadith of the Prophet. A man was granted a heaven because of saving a life of a dog. A dog, you think is an animal, right? It's not important. But on the side of Allah, it's important. A dog was thirsty and is at the edge of death. The man provided it with the water and saved the life. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala granted him heaven because of saving a life. A woman get to the hellfire also because she took the life of a cat. She put a cat in the house, no feeding, no water, nothing, and the cat died out of hunger and thirst, and Allah put her in the hellfire because of not saving a life. That is how life is in the sight of Allah. Life is very precious. That any life, as long as we can save it in any way, we should do our best to save that life. And we shouldn't be among those who are rushing to take the life. Yes.
What was the responsibility to your spouse in the will?
The responsibility of?
Is there any responsibility to your spouse?
The spouse doesn't have any responsibility towards the spouse unless what the spouse wants the other spouse to do it for him or her. For example, like Imam Ali alayhi salam and Zahra, one of the things she required from Imam Ali, even it's not wajib, but he required from her. Number one, he required from him to do the ghusl. Number two, to do the kafan and everything. Number four, to recite Surah Yasin and Safat every night for her. And that's what Imam Ali did. So there is no specific a requirement that the husband or the wife have to do towards the other. But you as a spouse, you can ask your spouse what he wants, what you want from him or her to do for you. So they can, and whatever you ask, they should honor that and do exactly what the request of the spouse is. Yes?
My question is the confidentiality when you're writing a will, right?
Yes.
And you know how many namazes, how many wajibat that I've not done.
What?
How does that, how do you handle that when you say that I missed 10 years of wajib salat? What's the confidentiality? How much does it have to be known in the society after I've gone? How does that impact my legacy or whatever that is after that?
Yes, the question is, how can writing a will also help my privacy? And when I write a will, I have to write how many fasting I miss, how many salat I miss. Isn't that contradict with my privacy? The answer is no. When I write a will, I don't have to come to the, let's say, masjid and read to everybody. No. It is between me and the person who is going to carry that will. That's it. Nobody has to know what you wanted to be done except what you want to share with them. But the only person who will carry the will is the only person you have to let them know what you want them to do. Not only that, you can even write a will and tell the brother or the sister, I want you to be the caretaker of my will, but I don't want you to read it until the day I pass away. That's it. And it stays private. Or you can tell the person, this will, nobody is allowed to see it except you. That's also your right, you can do that as well. So a will doesn't mean I have to share it with the world. No, it's between me and the person I want him or her to carry the will. And that's it. Nobody else. Yes. Yes.
What's the definition of death? Like, is it brain dead, or is it stopping of heart, or is it? That's one thing. But the thing is, like, if you're a physician, sometimes you have to certify people are dead.
Yeah.
So, from an Islamic point of view, is there any obligation there?
Yes. In Islam, brothers asking about what is the definition of death in Islam. So because there are two kinds of definition. There is, according to the doctors, they say when the brain stops functioning, according to them, the person is dead. But Islamically, we don't consider that death. Now, death in Islam, they said it's a separation of the spirit from the body. Which means, when a person completely stops breathing, and the entire body, brain and the heart and every part of him stop functioning. That is called death. For that matter, as a Muslim, when a person, as long as the heart still beats, is still considered alive. That is why when a woman is pregnant, the baby, he doesn't have the brain yet. If the person kills that baby, they have to pay compensation towards that person, towards the parents of that child. Because Islam considers what? Alive, a living person. Now, if a person is mental, the brain is not working, I go and kill him. Isn't there considered that killing a human being? Yes, his brain doesn't function. He is out of his mind, he is mental. But as long as he is breathing in and out, is considered a living person. So if anything I do to him, it's considered what? Killing a person. So even if a person is dead brain-wise, but as long as the heart is still functioning, it's considered alive, and we are not allowed to consider them dead. Now, however, living in some part of the countries, there are certain laws and regulations around it. They look things according to their way of looking at things, which might not agree with the Islam, right? Now, if you are forced to go according to that rule, against your own will, against your teaching, that is okay to go according to that. If you don't have a choice. But if you have a choice, then you should go with the Islamic teaching. Yes.
One question about the executioner of the will. Is it possible to be the spouse, or is it recommended to be your spouse as the first? And should we have multiple choices? Like if this person is not there, then who should be the executioner of it?
What? The question is, who should be the best person to take care of my will? Is it a spouse or somebody else? It can be, this is a place that Allah or Islam gives you a choice. Whomever you are comfortable with can execute the will. If you find your spouse to be the person you trust and you're comfortable with, then she should be. If you have a person, a brother, a cousin, a friend, any person you trust and you're comfortable with, then that should be the person. And you have the right also to make multiple choice. That in case this person is there, I want this person to be the first person to execute this. If he dies before me, then this person should take care of it. And then you can give the multiple choice as well. But it's not a must. What is must is to point somebody, one person, whom you are comfortable with, whether it's your spouse or somebody else. And if you want to give between 3, 4, 5 people, that is fine as well. But the recommendation of scholars is at least to be 2. One of them is called the executor of the will, and the other one is the supervisor. Meaning, the supervisor is to make sure that the executor of the will takes everything that you ask them to do, so that it's done in the proper way. That is the recommendation. But you don't have to if you don't want to. Yes.
If the executor of the will does not execute, or the execution of will, is that a mustahab act on you, or is that a wajib act on you?
Good question. If I appoint somebody to execute my will, has that become mustahab for them to do it or wajib? The answer is it's wajib upon them if they accept it. Yes. They don't have to accept it if they don't want to. But if they accept it, then it's wajib upon them to execute it according to the way you want. Exactly. They are not allowed to add or reduce or neglect or add, no, exactly the way you want. Except when something happens beyond their will. They can't. They don't have any control. That's different. But other than that, it's wajib for them to do it exactly as you are. So execution of will is wajib after the person accepts it. Yes.
So that means you have to ask the executor that you are putting their name and they have to accept it before you put it in there.
That's right. That means I cannot just put a random name and say, okay, when I pass away, this person is going to do it. No, you have to consult them. They have to know. And if they accept, yes, that is wajib upon them. If they don't want to, they can say, no, I don't want to. I don't want that responsibility. Give it to somebody else. Then you can choose somebody else. But you should let them know. But you don't have to let them see what the will is about. They don't have to. You can tell them that I want you to execute my will after I die, and the will be at this place, for example. So that way they know where it is, so they can make sure that whatever you want is done accordingly. Now, after the death, they can go and check and see what exactly you ask. Alright? But it's recommended to let them see it before. Because if there is something they can't do it, they can tell you right away, this one I can't do it. Or if they can do it, they can tell you I can do it, and then you have nothing to worry after that. But you don't have to show them everything. If you choose not to, that's fine as well. But they should be you should let them know that you want them to execute the will after you're dead. So that way it becomes wajib upon them. Yes.
Can you briefly go through the proportions of the 2/3 and how that goes? And I don't know, I think somewhere what they suggest is you can take some of your third and then put it towards the girl and mix it up like that. I don't know.
Yes. According to the Shia school of thought, they say when a person is sick and is dying, automatically Islam comes and divides whatever the person has into 3. Automatically. Everything that you have, Islam said, I automatically divide into 3. 2/3, Islam said, that is for your inheritance. Wife, children, father, mother, that's them. Islam said 1/3 of whatever you have, you are allowed to use it in anything that you want. A gift you want to give somebody. Sadaqa Jariyah you want to establish, as anything you want to do, establish you're allowed to use from that 1/3. Don't exceed that. So that way 2/3 remains for your family. So what it is Islam automatically divides 2/3, 3 to 3. And then 2/3 is not to be touched except 1/3. 1/3 you can write, you can use it in anything you want. That is according to the Shia school.
So you can give more to the people who are in inheritance from your 1/3. That give this 1/3 to this one person who's part of your 2/3.
Yes, the question is, let's say I have children, right? 3, 4, but one of them obeys more, right? But can I take from out of the 1/3 another gift and give it to one of my children as a gift? The answer is yes, you can. You can. One of the daughters or son listen more or is more pious than the others. I want to donate or give more. Yes, you can. Absolutely, you can. You can do that, and there is no problem with giving extra to your son as a gift. But you cannot give them as an inheritance, because inheritance, when does it come? It happens after the death. And that you cannot add or reduce. No, it's already shared in Quran according to the will of Allah. But in that 1/3, you can say that I'm giving this to my son as a gift. Yes, that can happen. But not after my death. So in that 1/3, you can even decide to give everything to that one son, or one daughter, or your daughter, or share between the two, or leave the other. Whatever you want to do in that 1/3, you can. Yes.
If you have like different children, some are like young, very young, and some are old, can you make a distinction between them, or the different parts? Does Islam tell it in a different way, or they are all equal?
The question is, if you have different children, some are old, some are young. Now, in distribution of the will of the inheritance, is there any preferences that somebody get more, somebody get less? The answer is yes and no. Yes. Now I'll tell you how can it be yes and how can it be no. Yes, if they are boys and girls. If I have a children, one is boy, one is girl, it's prefers. They don't get the same. Right? Allah mentioned in the Quran, لِلذَّكَرِ مِثْلُ حَظِّ الْأُنْثَيَيْنِ. If we give a woman 1, then we have to give 2 of it to a man. I'm sorry, sisters. Meaning, if we give $2, a dollar to a sister, then $2 go to a brother. Means get double. Right? Now I explain why, inshallah. Be patient, inshallah. I will explain why is this happening. Now, however, if they are boys, they are all boys, no girl, one of them is 60 years old, the other is 2 years old. Right? 60 and 50, right? Now here, let's say I want to divide them. Do they get difference? Nope. The boys, he is 2 years. He is infant, he just got born. And the other one is 75. His brother, older brother, 75. Can they get difference? Nope. Whatever we give to the older brother, we give the same thing to him too. They get equal. No more, no less. And the sons. But the brother and the sister, yes there is. Now, to the sisters, what is the wisdom? Why do they get less? Why do we get more? Number 1, I'm sorry, it's not my choice, it's his choice. He made that decision. That's number 1. Number 2, they say the wisdom behind it is that in Islam, women are always to collect and men are always to give. Okay? Now if you have 2 people, one always give and one always take, and you want to help them, who should you help more? The one who collects or the one who gives? The one who spends needs more help than the one who collects. Right? Now simple example, when a man wants to get married, who gets the dowry? A sister. Collecting, right? The man gets the dowry where? In Islam?
In Islam.
Maybe, I don't know. Not in Islam. In Islam, he has to give, not to take. If he takes, you have to take it back. Right? So in Islam, he has to give. That's number one. Number two, after you come to the house, he has to spend on you. Your house, your clothing, your food, your health, your shelter is his responsibility. You can have billions of dollars and he's still obligated to spend on you. That's the Islamic teaching, right? Yes, unfortunately here is half and half, right? In the United States, yes, but that you don't have to do that. If you don't want to, you don't have, your money is your money. You don't want to share with him, too bad. He has to pay everything. That's his responsibility, right? However, helping is good in Islam. Helping your husband with whatever you could is really, really appreciated by Allah and the Prophet. So in that matter, a woman always collect and the husband have to spend. Now Islam said, in this case now we have a help comes in, right? Inheritance. Islam said the one who always gives deserves more than the one who always gets. That is the wisdom what Islam said. A man gets more and the woman gets less. With that wisdom. Yes, please.
If you have an oldest daughter and then it's a son, who gets all the responsibility of your namaz and all that?
The son.
Yeah. So there's more.
Yes, the son is the one who takes care of that, yes. Even if he is the last born and the others are all sisters, then he has to do it.
What if you don't have a son?
If you don't have a son,
Yeah.
then it's recommended the older daughter to do it. But it's not a wajib upon her. But it's recommended. Yes.
Oh, really?
Yes. Yes.
What about debt? What if your parents have more debt than they have money?
I'm sorry?
What about debt?
Debt?
Debt.
Yes.
Debt. Like if your parents owe more money than
Yes.
they have. So 2/3 of that responsibility would be for the son and 1/3 for the daughter?
No. It's a good question. If a father dies or the parent died and they left alone, the debts, right? Now, should we divide it also? Has the son get more to pay and the daughter get less? The answer is they don't have to. Okay? What the first thing they have to do is, if the father or the deceased have certain things they can sell to pay the debt, that's what they have to do. They don't have to pay it from themselves. But if he doesn't have, they are not obligated to pay that debt. But if they can, if they're in a position where they can pay, it's recommended to pay on the behalf of their father or their mother. Yes.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
Actually, two questions.
Yes, please.
One on Brother Azgar's and one on Brother Ahmed's question.
Yes.
Regarding the missed prayers, how do you calculate how many prayers you have missed and how many? I mean, how do I know that that many prayers that I missed and that many fasting?
Right.
Is there a way to find out?
There are two ways to find out. Number one is to sit down and try to think. Try to calculate. I think maybe it's 40 years. Or maybe close to 35. Or 10 years. Or 5 years. If you can at least come to some number, then that's what you should do. If you don't, I can't even imagine. I don't even know. Then they say you have to keep paying until you get to satisfy that now I think I'm done. I don't think I owe any salah. Then you can stop.
Okay, then my second question regarding the person who is the executor of my will.
Yes.
And he should execute it exactly according to the will.
Yes.
But let's suppose he left a lot of money. And the person who left a lot of money is very ill-informed about financial matters. And he has given something that are not advisable. The person who is executed knows that it is better to invest this money in this way, which will benefit the children more rather than what is in the will. Is it okay and all halal, is it okay to change it to benefit the children genuinely, sincerely?
A good question. Yes, it's a very good question. Here, there are two kinds of situations, like you mentioned. Sometimes the person, he tells you that this is how I want it, period. Sometimes he say, no, I want you to be the supervisor of money, use it or put it in any way you think is right thing to do. Now, If you are not given that right, meaning he tells you what exactly he wants to be done, that is how it should be done. But if he puts you in charge, like he makes you like the supervisor, that whatever you think is the right thing, you go ahead and do it, then absolutely you are allowed to do that. You can take the money from one place and put it in another place, or change it in any way that you think it will be beneficial for the children.
We should prepare for Salah, 7:30.
Just a quick comment about the quick one.
Yeah.
Regarding informing the lawyers and getting ready certified. Just a comment.
Yes.
Because we have a will and we got it done. It is sitting in our next to my bed. So
Alhamdulillah.
the committee knows if something happens, that they can go and get the will.
Yes.
According to lawyers, it is a must. According to American law, it should be at least notarized by a public notary. Otherwise, the children can have serious problems in getting it. It should be notarized, and it is notarized now. So
Alhamdulillah.
that's the point.
Alhamdulillah. That's a good advice. And also when you write it, get it notarized so it can be effective and it can be used in this country, inshallah. وصلى الله على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل